The following podcast contains opinion and commentary protected by the First Amendment and fair use. It may also contain adult themes, adult concepts, and adult language not suitable for children. Viewer discretion is advised. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to your favorite cubbyhole on the internet. I am your host, the Cub in the Cubbyhole. It is Saturday, February 22nd, and we have yet another episode of the Jenn Kamp, John Dehlin saga, just when I thought it was over. Well, it seemed to be over until a couple days ago when there was a notification that, oh, but wait, there's more. Like Laura Owens, this is the perennial gift that keeps on giving. So I think it's important, since there's only 30 minutes before a premiere from Radio Free Mormon. Let's put this on screen. This is great. RFM, the legendary. Apparently, Jenn Kamp is trying to dig dirt on John Dehlin. Despite them settling, and we'll talk about this in a minute, I've got like 30 minutes to cover all this, and I'm running behind even in pre-production stuff, so forgive me, I'm winging it. You know what? Before we even get there, let me back up all the way to the beginning to the welcome part and say to new subscribers, thank you. Welcome. Welcome to this insanity. This is my cesspool. And it could be my jacuzzi too, to quote Laura 90. We'll keep it to my cubbyhole. We've celebrated over a year of this channel being in existence. The anniversary was technically this past October. When you only have a handful of subscribers, bless every single one of you, of which there were at the time, I think, only 20 or 21, we've doubled in a few months to, I think, 45 now. So, bless you. Thank you all for being part of this craziness, because the world is crazy, and what better place to enjoy community than on the internet with each other, where we have at least some common interests in certain things. And the craziness of the world seems to be one of them, at least for me. So to review, the Jenn Kamp, John Dehlin case. This began years ago, probably pushing 4 now, when Jennifer Ruth Kamp was an employee of the Open Stories Foundation and Mormon Stories podcast. For those of you not familiar with the Mormon and post-Mormon spaces on the internet, also called the ex-Mormon community and so forth, Mormon Stories holds a particular place of prominence, being one of the larger channels on social media, and with a certain degree of following and success. They're certainly very financially successful as a nonprofit. And their whole raison d'etre, although it's sort of evolved over the years just a little bit, began with its founder, John Dehlin, working out his faith crises. He was doing so rather publicly, processing his position on being a member of the Mormon Church. That eventually led to his removal from the church via excommunication, which was somewhat public. And then it evolved into the growth of a channel where many other people who were experiencing faith crises and or leaving Mormonism and or being excommunicated from Mormonism would go on his podcast, and in many hours, for many cases and many stories, would share those processes, that journey, and their life story as it pertains to being a member of the LDS Church, and then most likely being an ex-member of the LDS Church. And this runs a whole gamut of people. And I wait for the day when the young and charming David Archuleta, of great fame in pop music, and I think, was it American Idol? May one day appear on this channel, but he hasn't yet done so. The second David Archuleta came out of the closet, I was like, well, we always knew that. So when are we going to see one of these podcasts to actually tell a little bit more? I mean, certainly he has his own platform. He's got enough star power. He could sit in front of a camera and be fine on his own without someone like John Dehlin or anyone else for that matter. But here we are. As the years transpire and the Mormon Stories podcasts grow, they have a studio that they work out of, they have staff, and Jenn Kamp becomes one of sort of a cavalcade of women with, in my view, rather significant issues to be involved as staff or leadership of this venture. There are others who end up being sort of vexatious litigants against other principals in this story, like Radio Free Mormon. But Jenn Kamp had sort of an on-air presence at first that was rather grating. It seemed she was quite emotive, in my view. She often cried and sobbed uncontrollably. She often pivoted stories of guests into one of just trying to keep telling her story over and over again. She would often co-opt and take over conversations, or at least that's my interpretation of having witnessed and seen those episodes. As time would go on, not only would she be a co-host in Mormon Stories episodes, but she would go on to be sort of a director, I think a director of operations or an executive director, and have staff working under her. This led to some conflicts in her performance as an employee and as leadership and governing staff at Mormon Stories. And if one were to watch Radio Free Mormon's latest episode, where he talks about the end of the saga, or at least so it seemed at the time, this is a 2-week ago episode that Radio Free Mormon releases, he calls it the epilogue. But is it really? It's my view that this will never be over for Jenn Kamp, and just like Laura Owens, because these are women who are not used to being told no, and are not used to not getting their way, and they are not used to their ploys of emotional manipulation and coercion and threats and so on and so forth not working for them. That's why they function the way they do, on top of most likely some other issues that precipitate those sorts of behaviors. Again, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a licensed medical practitioner of any sort, I am just another person expressing their opinion. And if I need to reference you all the way back to the beginning to the disclaimer, then so be it. I shouldn't have to read it again. Just rewind back and everything said, here's my opinion. That's the beauty of the First Amendment. We choose to do so with facts and receipts and evidence, but we're also not going to shy away from difficult conversations. So, continuing on, Jenn Kamp's performance at Mormon Stories was subpar and caused some meetings to be called that she didn't want to participate in, technically. She got all derailed about having to come into the office, as it were, on a work-from-home day, and she's quite pissed off. And this led to as Radio Free Mormon explains it in his most recent video, rather confrontational discussions between her and John Dehlin as her boss. Essentially, her inability to perform and to coach other people that Jennifer is responsible for in successfully doing their jobs. Jenn is unable to do those things. She's unable to have those conversations and to give people the necessary training and things to be successful. This is not surprising news, and really, I think many employers, after a round or two of an ineffectual person who was in such a place of leadership, and supposedly, I forget where this comes from, I think this might have been on an earlier RFM episode, Jenn Kamp was making a solid 6 figures and was sort of demanding more as the time went on, because, she's taking on so many extra duties. This information is out there. I don't have it handy because I'm sort of winging it, and I just don't have time for all this extra stuff in a PowerPoint before the premiere happens in 19 minutes, according to this clock. So we're moving quickly. The situation with Jenn devolves. She starts making accusations about John Dehlin's behavior. This becomes an issue with the Open Stories board of directors. Jenn accuses John of all sorts of improper behavior, all of which end up being unsubstantiated. RFM covers all of this in great detail. Things devolve even further with this woman not letting go. She's determined to have her way. So she tries to file a case against John Dehlin. She files in the wrong court. Dehlin preemptively files an action against her, and the legal battle ensues. We covered a little bit about the court cases. We had some audio in a previous episode. I may or may not have a chance to link it in the description here. We'll try. This whole technology thing is a little bit much for me. We're glad we can operate a microphone and hit a button there on occasion. But as these cases progress, Jenn Kamp goes on the air with her own podcast. She decides to start a podcast called Our Truth Be Told. Curiously enough, no trace of it can be found on YouTube anymore. And even though she sold this platform as being one of being able to tell difficult stories, she ends up using the platform to commit defamation against John Dehlin. I saw a number of these videos. I wish I had a chance to capture them digitally just to have some snippets of, not for the sake of embarrassing John or anybody else related to the Open Stories Foundation, but as just sort of a record of Jenn Kamp's rather horrific actions, allegations, and accusations that were proven unfounded against John Dehlin and the Open Stories Foundation. If only we could go back in time and record things sometimes, right? This is always kind of the story of life. The more you record, the more accurate record you have for looking back, should it ever be necessary. This is why cameras are so handy these days. They're in our pockets or often in our cars. Use them, folks. It might save you one day, as would lots of documentation. In the court processes, as Jenn Kamp starts releasing defamatory videos accusing John of all sorts of sexual improprieties, and among other things, including financial improprieties with the podcast and the foundation, it was found in court that she was in fact committing defamation. She was also found essentially guilty. That wasn't quite the terminology used, but she was spoliating, deleting evidence that would be useful in discovery. So she created all sorts of problems for herself. She claimed to have all of this proof and all this evidence that she never was able to produce, most likely because none of it ever existed, other than her allegations and her accusations. As the court process continues and the court finds Jenn Kamp, we'll just say, guilty of defamation as a matter of law, and the court orders Jenn to take down all of her defamatory videos and things about John Dehlin, the next step of that process was there to be a hearing, essentially, for finding damages as a result of the defamation. In so doing, Jenn Kamp files for divorce. She files a quitclaim deed on the fairly substantively valuable property she had, her and her husband, I should say, Jason Kamp. She quitclaims her percentage, or I believe her half, of that property to her husband. They try to quickly sell it. This all seems preemptive, knowing that she's probably going to have a judgment against her, and it's going to be a sizable judgment. She then goes on to file divorce to try and separate her and give her some distance from her husband. And I would imagine some sort of collateral litigation, because if he has all of the assets, well, then she thinks that makes her judgment proof. So the Open Stories Foundation and Dehlin legal team file some things to try and prevent all that happening. Jenn Kamp ends up relocating to Washington State in Gig Harbor, where she files for bankruptcy in Tacoma, Washington. Strangely enough, she's living together with her husband in an apartment in Gig Harbor, Washington, according to Radio Free Mormon, even though they're divorced, and I'm using air quotes here. This is wild. I mean, this is sort of the craziness of what Laura Owens would become if she were married to someone. At least that's my opinion of it. Do you see sort of the parallels of weird activity and weird processes to avoid being held accountable as Laura Owens? This is sort of where, and I'm going to be just a little bit controversial here, where the Me Too movement kind of goes sideways, where we try and use what has happened poorly to women and their treatment by men in the reverse, and women treat men poorly and men become the victims. That's the case of Laura Owens and Clayton Echard and Greg Gillespie and Michael Maricini and probably others that haven't yet been identified. And that certainly seems to be the case of Jenn Kamp against John Dehlin and probably others that we don't know about there too. Patterns of behavior tend to have certain repetition to them. I don't think it's any different here with Jenn Kamp than it is with Laura Owens. Women from a place of entitlement, abusing that, and trying to accuse men of things that didn't happen so that they avoid accountability for their seemingly criminal actions. And I say seemingly criminal because, at least in the case of Laura Owens, she was committing false medical records. She was making false allegations of paternity. She was doing all kinds of crazy things that happened not only once, but several times with different men. Jenn Kamp is not much different, although this is the first public case, because John Dehlin has very bravely, I think, sought to keep this out in front and in public of this woman trying to accuse him of all sorts of improper things. And in some cases, and I was just looking at this on a friend of Jenn Kamp's YouTube page, accusing him of financial fraud. It just goes on and on. These are the same sorts of people cut from the same cloth, using the same things to sidestep being responsible. And it's disgusting. And it should be called out, and it should be revealed with the brightest light that can be shined upon it. So this is sort of the overview of the Jenn Kamp case so far. And how long has it taken already? Well, more than 15 minutes. Where we're at now, and where this premiere is going to happen in 12 minutes, according to the clock, we've had a settlement, essentially, as part of the bankruptcy proceedings that Jenn Kamp initiated in Washington state. A number of people were named as potential creditors in Jenn Kamp's bankruptcy case. RFM supposedly was one of them, so he was receiving notifications about this case, which is, I suppose, a beneficial point as far as reporting this from, because it comes from a factual case and a factual position. There is a large number that John Dehlin and the Open Stories Foundation created as a settlement amount for the Court of Salt Lake City, presided by Judge Faust, determined that Jenn Kamp was responsible for defamation, and had the bankruptcy court not taken over the jurisdiction, as bankruptcy tends to do when there's going to be settlements and sentencings for damages and so forth. There is a large number coming. If we bring that up on the screen, we find that John Dehlin claims that the amount of damages from Jenn Kamp's defamation is about $400,000. That's a very nice round number. He probably could have charged more based on what I was saying being said about him by these women that Jenn Kamp affiliated with, and her crew sort of parroting, and still parroting to this day on their respective pages. OSF could probably go after all of them for sort of repeating what the Utah court found as defamatory. But they're trying to soften it so it doesn't sound that bad. The number submitted by Open Stories Foundation is essentially $750,000. So if we round everything up and we combine it all together, total damages of for counts of defamation committed by Jenn Kamp against John Dehlin and the Open Stories Foundation is about $1.13 million. That's not a surprise, and it probably should have been a larger number. But, well, let's see. Oh, the chat is starting to heat up on the page. Oh, my goodness. It's a windy evening in Gotham City. Oh, Radio Free Mormon is chatting. Oh, I might have to resist the urge a little bit to start typing away as I'm recording this and awaiting to watch this thing. All right. Quickly. We've got 10 minutes and less. A settlement has been offered. Jenn Kamp sort of complains that, well, she doesn't agree with the characterization of the settlement calculated by John and Open Stories. And now we're at where we're at. RFM did an excellent job highlighting sort of the case history of this on his latest episode. And I absolutely encourage everyone to go back and watch that. I will include it as a link here for reference down in the description below, because it's just the right thing to do. I'm borrowing some of this stuff, and we're going to have a live reaction to the latest dirt on RFM's soon to premiere thing. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a second. I'm going to take just a quick breather before this thing goes live, and we'll have some live reaction. I may actually have to warm up the camera. All right, hang on, folks. Oh, here we go. It's starting. I might just hang out a little bit on camera just because this is crazy. And I'll be in the chat. Well, I am in the chat. I can't help it. This is extraordinary. So my gathering of this particular preview is that there's some audio files of Jenn Kamp approaching other, I think, content creators, trying to get the sneaky dirt on John Dehlin, probably so she can platform it and try and say, see, I wasn't lying. I should be able to say these nasty things about John Dehlin. That's my hunch. 10 seconds. Let's see if I'm right. What are we doing? Don't you dare do that. Showtime.
I know what you're thinking. Aren't we done with Jenn Kamp? I thought so too. About 3 weeks ago, when I did my last episode on the subject, John Dehlin versus Jenn Kamp epilogue. But in the meantime, in fact, just this past week, what to my wondering eyes should appear on the internet but another video of Jenn Kamp? Not a new video in the sense that it was just taken, but a new video in that it just surfaced. This video was taken on the 4th of July weekend of 2024. And believe it or not, it captures Jenn Kamp reaching out to Thrive attendees to try and dig up dirt on John Dehlin. Join us tonight on Radio Free Mormon. It should be interesting.
We go to Thrive to try and get quiet. Oh my Lord. I can't believe this. This is salacious. Wow. Yes, we'll put that in the chat.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2.
Oh, it's going to be chunky. There's so many
this is
watching.
Radio Free Mormon on the air, broadcasting behind enemy lines.
No.
Tonight's episode, Jenn Kamp tries to dig up dirt on John Dehlin. Radio Free Mormon, episode 386. Now, once again, as I said in the opening,
why is it so horrific?
This video that I have obtained is actually not new. It was taken back on the 4th of July weekend of 2024. It really is more of an audio. I say video because technically it is a video, but really it's operating in the capacity of an audio. It's capturing Jenn Kamp's voice as she is calling these individuals to try and dig up dirt on John Dehlin. It appears that Jenn Kamp, through some means, had figured out the phone number of these individuals. How could she have done that? She doesn't seem to know them personally. She seems to have gotten their phone number from some other source. And I'm guessing that other source might be from, I don't know, the business records of Thrive that she had access to when she was working for John Dehlin.
Oh my.
Let's put this all in chronological order before we start, shall we?
Yes, please.
This is the 4th of July weekend, 2024. That means that prior to this point, Jenn Kamp has already been found to have committed defamation against John Dehlin by Judge Faust. She has also already been ordered by Judge Faust to take down her defamatory videos of John Dehlin and not defame him any further during the pendency of the proceedings. On top of that, she has also met with a bankruptcy attorney in Washington State and is on the cusp of filing for bankruptcy in Washington State. She will do that by the time the 4th of July weekend is over in preparation for the hearing that she has in Utah on the day or two after. I think it's the very day after the 4th of July weekend was over. So she can show up and say, hey, I filed for bankruptcy. You've got no more jurisdiction over me, Judge Faust. I'll see you later. And then she sails off into the bankruptcy court, and we have followed that story.
She flies to Washington.
But this is to give you context for when it was that this happened and when it was that Jenn Kamp made this phone call. And it's really amazing because she has already lost the defamation case. She's been found guilty of defamation. She's been told to stop defaming John Dehlin, and yet she's reaching out and continuing to try and solicit information that is defamatory of John Dehlin. It's obvious what she's going for. Wait till you hear this for yourself. So this video came out on February 16th, 2025. Today's date for the record that I'm recording this is February 21st, 2025. Hopefully it'll go up tomorrow on February 22nd, 2025, when this video will be published. But this particular video of Jenn Kamp from the 4th of July weekend, 2024, was first published, to my knowledge, a week ago on February 16th, 2025, It is at the YouTube channel called Post Mormon Purpose. If you want to look it up yourself, it's called Post Mormon, one word, Purpose. As of today's date, this video has had only 139 views on this rather smallish channel. And I think this video is important enough that it deserves a much wider audience. Let's watch this video and see what happens. And more importantly, listen to what happens. Shall we?
Oh my goodness.
Me and my wife went to a Thrive conference, which, by the way, we couldn't pay for most of it for pretty much anything. We're pretty poor. And they paid the rest. So those who say they're just out trying to make money, I don't think so. It's very professional, amazingly well done.
Can we just stop for a second and observe that the Thrive organization, which is there to try and support people when they're going through the difficulties of faith transitions and provide community for them, which they might be losing from their church at the same time they're exiting, to have a community for them outside the church, to accept them and be there for them upon their exit. Now, a lot of times people have criticized that, mostly Mormons, because they don't like anything being there for people when they leave the church. I think they'd rather they be eaten by sharks once they do their half gainer off the side of the boat. However, Thrive is there, and it opens its doors to lots and lots of people, including people who cannot afford the price of admission. And apparently this guy and his wife apparently were among those who could not afford. And so what they did was they set up at Thrive the ability for people who couldn't make the full price to attend be supplemented by others who could. And I think this is generous. What he's talking about here. So I want to give a big thumbs up for Thrive for making it available to as many needing people as they possibly can. And believe me, there's a lot of needy people out there in this regard. Now, Jenn Kamp did not work for John Dehlin that long. She worked there for less than a year in 2022. Remember, she was fired in early September of 2022. I think she started in February, might have been January of that same year. So less than a year she's working there. My understanding is that prior to her working officially for John Dehlin, she unofficially helped with some Thrive events. So it is possible that this is talking about a time before she officially started working for John Dehlin. Maybe it's while she was working officially for John Dehlin. I don't know. The important point is that this phone call from Jenn Kamp was received by this guy and his wife on the 4th of July weekend of 2024, which means that it had been almost 2 years since Jenn Kamp had been fired from Mormon Stories as of the time she calls these people. So it's been almost 2 years. She's fired in early September of 2022. This phone call occurs 4th of July weekend, 2024. And now she's going to ask them for their recollection about what happened at a certain breakout meeting during this Thrive conference, a certain breakout meeting where apparently John Dehlin was leading the breakout meeting. And apparently Jenn Kamp is trying to find somebody who asked John Dehlin a certain question because Jenn Kamp was there. That's why it has to be during this time period. See, she was present. And she says she's sitting next to this couple, a man and a woman, and the man asks a question and John Dehlin gives some kind of answer, which she found scurrilous and reprehensible. She never says what it was. This guy never remembers what the heck it was because he says nothing weird happened, but she's digging for it. And it's obvious she's digging for it. Listen to this.
But anyway, Jenn Kamp was there. Just thought I'd share a fun little clip of her calling us years later to try and get dirt on John Dehlin or try and insinuate that something weird happened when absolutely nothing did.
No worries.
No problem.
I just have a question for you guys, and I don't want to guide you in any way. I just wanted to know when
Jen.
you were in that little breakout room where John was talking to us. Do you, either you or your husband, do you remember what a question that your husband asked John?
He's with me right now. I don't remember.
I don't think I even asked it, to be honest. I think I was going to ask a question and then someone else had something more important to say and I ended up not even saying it as far as I remember.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now this is weird because at this point, it's like Jenn Kamp is a mind reader. She didn't hear him say the question. He only thought the question, but she knew he asked the question enough to give him a call, right? How did she get this phone number again? Yeah, he did, I think, ask a question. I think here he is leading her on, and I think he will admit that in the comments he makes to the side of his video from time to time. Going on with the recording.
I'm trying to figure out who it was that asked him a question. Like, they asked something to the effect of, like, you know, since leaving the church and being in the post-Mormon space and you being in the role that you're in, like they're asking us to John, like what was the hardest part of that? Like what's been the hardest part for him? And his response was really...
Okay, so Jenn Kamp remembers, apparently verbatim, the question that this guy asked John, or that she thinks he asked John, but she's not going to give the answer that John gave, which is the whole reason she's calling. I think that in her mind, she's trying not to lead the witness, but it makes it very confusing. It would be much easier for her to just say, what is it that you say that John said, and see if they agree with it. However, I appreciate the fact that she's not trying to contaminate the memory of the witness by telling them what the answer is. Here on the screen now, on this video screen, it states, to clarify, this is the guy who recorded this, writing this when he posts it. To clarify, I did ask a question along the lines of what she's referring to. Of course, otherwise, how would she know? It just wasn't the one I remember waiting to see if I'd have time to ask. So I guess she is a mind reader. So he has two questions. He did ask a question along the lines of what she's referring to. It just wasn't the one I remember waiting to see if I'd have time to ask. Well, okay. Not exactly sure what that last part means, but it's obvious that the first part is he's copying that he actually did ask the question. That for whatever reason and however she did it, Jenn Kamp actually did get the right name and phone number of the people that she was sitting next to at Thrive years before, and she's calling up to dig up dirt on John. This guy apparently is playing along, though. He did ask the question, but he's telling her he did not. Circles within circles.
Really
Jesus.
Off-putting. Like it was a weird answer to what the question that was asked of him. And so, and I remember the person sitting next to me was a guy, and his girlfriend was there, or fiance, I can't remember who it was, fiance, son, like, or maybe newly married. And when he did this kind of weird answer to the question, the guy next to me like grabbed his fiance's hand, kind of like in a protective way.
Oh my gosh. So John apparently gets a question, and she remembers the question. She recites the question. The guy's recording it admits in the comments on the video, he says, yeah, I did ask that question. And it's just a nothing question, really, in terms of, you know, what was the hardest part about deconstructing your faith? And then John, according to Jenn, gives this really weird, off-putting answer, so much so that the guy grabs his fiance's hand in a protective manner. You know, I've got to protect the women folk out here because John Dehlin is saying such weird, crazy things in response to this question he gets, I don't know, 1 million times. But this time is different, right? He gives some kind of weird answer. She doesn't say what it is. It's obviously suggestive in nature. And it's a cause for men to protect their women folk in the room. And the guy who posts the video says, I definitely didn't get any weird vibes or anything from his response. I touch my wife's hand and back for rubs all the time. It's called being in love, honey. Okay. So that's his response to that. He did not have any experience where John said anything untoward or weird, and certainly not in such an untoward or weird way that he grabbed his fiance's or his wife's hand in a protective mode. Going on with the recording.
A little bit.
Okay.
Kind of like, and so I'm trying to see if anyone remembers the question, because I remember it, but I don't want to like tell you what it was or what his answer was.
How mysterious.
Wondering if you remember any.
I personally don't remember that.
Okay, so the woman doesn't remember anything. They were there. The guy doesn't remember anything. He was there, and he actually asked the question, but John Dehlin didn't do anything weird, nothing untoward, nothing inappropriate. And now he puts on the screen, if you follow Jenn Kamp's legal accusations and battle over the past few years at all, you're probably aware of how dishonest and manipulative she is.
Yep.
I've heard. I had heard a little about it, but wasn't
Yes,
sure
he
at the
has.
time exactly what was going on and wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, didn't we all? Going on with the recording.
You know,
I don't either. I feel like that sounds familiar. It was a long time ago. And I will say in our experience, because he is just a guy, like I don't have, it's not like the LDS church where I see him as a prophet or something. Like I'm sure, I don't know if he's a great guy or not, but I will say he seemed pretty professional and well-intentioned and stuff from my interactions with him.
Yeah. Okay.
You can almost hear the disappointment in Jenn's voice with that answer.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That answered my question. It must be someone else. But thank you for taking my call. I really.
And the fellow puts up on his screen on his YouTube video, totally. There couldn't be any alternate conclusion, huh? That's what he writes on his YouTube video.
Taking my call. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And good luck to you, and happy.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and I do want to
you.
say, Jen, I'm not like, I don't follow like all the ex-Mormon drama too deeply.
Yeah.
I've heard a little bit about this, and I try not to draw conclusions because I don't know you or John. But I mean, as far as I had heard, well, never mind. You probably don't want to get into it. I was just like,
I'm totally open.
Oh yeah, just when you thought this phone call was over, she's totally open to talking about things.
Where's this going?
I do have certain things I can't say.
Yeah, sure.
But I would love to hear actually your point of view from where you.
The things Jenn can't say that she's talking about here are defamatory comments against John Dehlin because Judge Faust has already ordered her as of this point to knock it the hell off.
I'd love to hear actually your point of view from where you sit.
From what I've heard, it seemed like you didn't really want the evidence presented and that John and Arthur did. And so I was like, well, I don't know. Again, I'm trying not to draw conclusions, but I was just wondering if something serious happened, like probably just present the evidence.
I would love in every way possible and have fought for the evidence to be shown. So far.
Okay. Wait a second.
Quick,
she would love as much as possible. She has fought in every way to get the evidence shown. No, that's exactly 180 degrees opposite of the truth. The truth is that she hid the evidence. She monkeyed with the evidence. She destroyed the evidence. And that is why Judge Faust found her guilty of defamation without even having a trial on the subject, because she had destroyed so much evidence that John Dehlin and OSF could not get a fair trial in front of a jury. That's what had happened as of this point. She wasn't in favor of getting the evidence out there. She was in favor of destroying the evidence so it could never be seen. That was Jenn Kamp's entire strategy and trial tactic in the Utah court. But here she has a different story, and she says, no, she was the champion for the evidence to come forward, not the one who was destroying it right and left. And indeed, this person who posted this video is going to pick up on that and do something rather humorous here in a second.
Or I have not been shown any that from them.
This is something she thought of later in order to get back at John Dehlin and OSF, which is what it looked like it was. Oh, I remember there was one thing in this video that was so amazing. It was Jenn Kamp telling what I consider to be the most bald-faced lie I may have ever seen, at least from an adult. I mean, you see a lot of bald-faced lies from kids, right? This is... Okay, let me pause for a second and make sure you know what this is. This person who posted the video has taken my video for this clip and posted it in their video, and they added something to make it even more humorous than it already is. I think most of you know what's coming. If you don't, you'll be pleasantly, if not uproariously, surprised. This is from an adult. And what happens here? What happens here is that at the meeting 5 days earlier with just Jennifer Kamp and John Dehlin, Jenn Kamp had left the meeting of 45 minutes saying that she had recorded the entire meeting with John Dehlin. She announced that to John Dehlin as she was leaving the studio. There had been nobody else there, but she said she recorded it. So what happens now is that she's making all these representations about how rude and domineering and threatening John Dehlin was at the meeting to her. And that's what she wants to bring to the board's attention, not sexual harassment. It's all about this meeting, right? Well, she says she recorded it. John says that he was concerned because she said that. She never denies it. She admits she recorded it. So Clint now in the lower left-hand corner says, hey, I tell you what, since you've given us this version of what happened at the meeting, which sounds like it might be kind of bad if that's the way it really happened. And by the way, this is me being played at 1.5 speed. You said you have the recording. Would you mind playing the recording so we can verify and confirm your version of events, Jennifer? And this is what happened. And I clipped this out and put it on my TikTok channel.
So, when you first told me about this and said, hey, do you want to listen to this recording? I said, no. Now I'm starting to wonder if maybe Carrie and I should listen to it so that we can have a good feeling of what's going on. Do you think that would be smart?
It's up to you. It was started, I think there's only like 15 minutes or 10 minutes. I don't know, somewhere between there, 10 and 15 minutes of. Actually, you know what? I deleted it.
Oh, that was brilliant.
I think she deleted it too. I think that when she listened to it and found out that it did not match her story, she said, there's no way I want this to continue to exist because it doesn't help my case any. I think this was a great, great clip for this person to pull and juxtapose with Jenn Kamp claiming on the phone call to them that she has fought hard to have the truth be made known. This clip where she obviously deleted evidence that would have shown the truth, but she deleted it because why? She didn't want it to continue to exist, as I said just then. John mentioned the security camera, the little bubble up on the ceiling. I'm sure you're familiar with those. You've seen a lot of those. Well, they have when they're in the studio, and that might have captured it. And indeed, they went back and they looked at whatever they had to look at to retrieve it. It was still there. It did capture it. It wasn't like, focused on the two people, but you could hear absolutely everything during the meeting, and you could see them from the top, and you could see part of John's legs and the top of his hat as well.
Her best interview
and what they saw was exactly the opposite
I may have to go back
of what it is that Jenn Kamp claimed happened in the meeting. No, John was not being domineering and threatening to her. She was being that way to John from beginning to end of the meeting. It was astonishing. And it was because of that Open Stories Foundation, through the board, said, we can't have this person working here anymore. She just lied to our faces. And she lied to say that John Dehlin was harassing her in this meeting. And we get, fortunately, after she's deleted the meeting, we get a separate audio. We're lucky enough to find that there's this video through the surveillance system that captured it, even though she deleted it. And when they looked at it, they find out that she was actually the one who was harassing John Dehlin. So they said, we can't have her anymore. And she was fired. And rightfully so, I think. Let's see that special effect again, shall we?
If something serious happened, probably just present the evidence.
I would love in every way possible and have fought for the evidence to be shown.
Or between there, 10 and 15 minutes of. Actually, you know what? I deleted it.
Everything in me would like them to show me something that says what I said was wrong. I want that. So far, I haven't been shown that.
Okay.
And what I would say, I guess what I feel comfortable.
Okay, wait a second. Once again, she says, so far I haven't been shown that, but she has already been found guilty of defamation against John Dehlin and the Open Stories Foundation. So apparently somebody saw something.
Thing is that I guess gosh, I don't know.
Hard to
There's
word,
things I can't
right?
say that I'm having to
Hard to
figure
word.
out how to speak without crossing any lines
That makes sense.
that I can't speak about.
I'm surprised she has that
but
restraint.
There's many things out in the world right now that are not actual documents, not actual video footage. They're created.
Okay, wait a second.
Wow.
Okay. Now, these things that are out in the world, first off, she said that there are things that she can't say, and that's she can't defame John Dehlin anymore. And you can tell it's really bothering her that she can't say it. She's having to walk all around it. However, good for her for obeying the court order. I mean, this is a first for her, and it's baby steps down the street, but good job obeying this court order, at least Jenn. Now she's going to segue into the second part of the conversation, where she's going to start alleging that documents have been altered by John Dehlin, by OSF as part of the court case. And she's also going to say that video of her has been altered to make her say things that she didn't really say. Nothing says that the video evidence is damning of you more than you're having to come up with a story that somebody must have monkeyed with it in order for it to be so damning. And this guy who is recording it, he doesn't understand what she's saying first because it's kind of out there. He can understand documents being changed, but video, that's a little more high tech. So he'll come back to it and clarify it in a few minutes.
By individuals. And that's,
You feel like there's a lot of
making me
fake
appear
legal
like
documents?
I'm making me appear like I said things that I didn't say. And so eventually I hope it will all eventually be able to be heard
Yeah, honestly, again, like if I don't know for sure, I'm just trying to be honest with you from the outside who hasn't fully followed. That is what it seems like to someone who, how it appears. But again, I don't know. So if you really are a victim, then best of luck to you, and I hope everything works out.
Yes, Jenn Kamp, it totally appears that you're a lying sack of crap who's trying to hide evidence all along the way. And it's John Dehlin and OSF who want the evidence to be seen. It appears that way. But actually, in some other alternate reality, maybe it's just the opposite. And maybe the person who's trying to hide the evidence, i.e. you, Jenn Kamp, is actually the person who wants it to be known.
Sure.
Yeah, and I do feel like in the end it will. Like I really have a peace within me that it's crazy smear campaign right now against me. I totally understand that. I grasp
Bring back the kitty
more than anyone.
Okay, wait a second. This crazy smear campaign that's being waged against her now, what she means is the truth is coming out. The truth coming out about Jenn is what she calls a smear campaign against her, just to clarify.
And
are you saying like there's like fake legal documents, or you mean like the podcasts? Because I know that I haven't clicked on all of them, but I know there's been quite a few podcasts about the legal cases. Are you... like, is that fake?
I can definitely comment on those, and I can definitely tell you that those are edited, and that some of the videos shown are edited to make me appear to say, and
oh my God, she's crazy.
And say sentences I never said.
Okay, once again, this is her allegation. I think she's made it before. The guy says, I have no idea what she's talking about. I've never seen any evidence to support this. Well, neither have I. It's because it's not true. It's not true. She's making up a story to cover why it is that in certain videos that she doesn't even specify, and she doesn't say what it is that's been changed. All she does is make this blanket allegation. Things have been changed. Otherwise, they wouldn't look so bad. If everything that was on video reflected what's going on in Jenn Kamp's head, she would look brilliant. I can guarantee you that. Unfortunately, videotape usually videos what really happens as opposed to what you're thinking in your head. And when there's a disconnect between the two, you should go with the videotape, but not Jenn Kamp.
Wow.
So they've been edited to be so.
Wow.
So that, and that's probably all I feel.
He now says that was just one quick example of how she operates. I will link RFM's synopsis of the case in the description if you enjoy Jenn Kamp lore. So I think that he was putting my epilogue, my last episode, in the description, and I'll try and do that too. I may not be as technologically savvy as Post-Mormon Purpose, but I'll give it a go. If not, I know someone I can call. His name sounds like Bill Reel, and maybe he can do it as well, to put their video in the show notes of my show. So that is really it as far as this particular video goes about Jenn Kamp. Now this individual will talk about things related to his channel and things that are going on personally in his life. But I thought this was important enough to bring to your attention so that you could see what was going on even back on the 4th of July weekend of 2024. Now, I do not think for a second that this is the only phone call that Jenn Kamp made like this.
I guarantee.
And if you got a phone call like this, heaven help us if you recorded it, please let me know. We'd be glad to put them up, because Jenn Kamp was busy shaking the trees, trying to see if anything bad that John Dehlin ever might have done would fall out, even though as of this point, she's lost the case. And I brought this up with somebody the other day saying, look, she's lost the case. She's been found guilty of defamation. She's actually filing for bankruptcy at the time she's trying to dig up this dirt on John Dehlin in this video. What's going on? She couldn't use it even if she got something. And the response was, to me, she's never going to give this up. She's going to be doing this for the rest of her life. She'll be trying to get dirt on John Dehlin until the day she dies. And if that's true, that's very sad. I actually hope it's not true. I hope that Jenn Kamp will find some kind of peace, some kind of purpose in her life that doesn't involve trying to destroy somebody else in retaliation for her perceived wrongs. Okay? Try and find something constructive. Hobbies are good. Hobbies are nice. I know you're still with your husband, even though you're divorced on paper. and maybe you guys could go out and do something together, take in a movie, whatever. Go out to dinner at a nice restaurant. Do something to take your mind off John Dehlin and Radio Free Mormon. It would be healthier that way. I recommend it highly. Now, I'm aware of the fact that some people may want to know what's in that entire video, so I'll have the link. I will call Bill Reel. I'll have him put the link in there. I've given a description of it such at the beginning of the show that you can find it with ease on the internet. I was going to play the whole thing here in the second half of the show without any commentary, but I thought, what fun would that be? You can watch it yourself on your own time. So that's the show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I find it absolutely remarkable. It can be a commentary sandwich. That Jenn Kamp is still out there as of the 4th of July weekend of 2024, calling up random people who attended Thrive events years earlier to try to get dirt on John Dehlin. And that's why today's episode is called Jenn Kamp Tries to Dig Up Dirt on John Dehlin. Well, please hit like, please hit subscribe, please leave a comment below what you think of this episode and what you think of this particular tactic of Jenn Kamp's to dig up dirt on John Dehlin. Well, that's about all for tonight. Until next time, this is Radio Free Mormon, signing off the air.
Well done. Well done. Well done. We'll mute the audio going out here. This is incredible. So here we are. Jenn Kamp is still hanging around, at least as of summer. Now, of course, RFM's epilogue talked about some of the settlement stuff, which happened more recently. So maybe things have quieted a little more. Do we really know? No. And I think he's absolutely right. And I've been saying this, like I sort of interjected, hopefully if I didn't hit the wrong mute button. She is so butthurt by having been wronged and not given into by John Dehlin. John Dehlin did not acquiesce to her demands for whatever. It sounds like everything from money to more power and fame and control, because that's what these people tend to gravitate towards. She's never going to be over this until she's a victor. I think it's true. I think it's absolutely right. And RFM's correct. It's sad if that's the choice she makes, that this becomes a lifelong vendetta of trying to go after John Dehlin. And as I was sort of saying in the chat, sort of typing away here in between things, the only way to stop her might be prison. I mean, some people get so caught in these feedback loops of behavior that are destructive and criminal and non-helpful and so on and so forth, that it's the only way to even attempt to break a cycle. I don't know how this can go any other way. She couldn't let go of it when she moved with her husband, who she's, as he says, divorced on paper. That was great. She can't let this go. She can't let it go. And God help any man that crosses her, I suppose. Just like God help any man that crosses Laura Owens. This is sort of the same pathology. This is the same modus operandi in their heads. Maybe I better call it a night. I'm starting to get flustered. I can't find my words anymore. And I have difficulty finding words even under the best circumstances sometimes. Crazy. Thank you, RFM, for the update. And I think I'll include this in the link as well, since this is current. I'm flabbergasted. I'm not surprised, because that's... man. What kind of psychosis could this be? If anyone who's a psychologist or psychiatrist or some mental health practitioner of any great skill wants to join this conversation, I'd love to pick your brain, because some of this is just extraordinary. It's this is the thing schizophrenia is made of, people living in weird realities that don't exist in any factual way, but they have to keep trying to manifest a different reality to make themselves function and to make themselves right. I can't help but laugh. I mean, otherwise, what's the option? You cry just crocodile tears that people are this screwed up. Because what else is it? I mean, this is not normal behavior. Faking pregnancies is not normal behavior. Faking twin pregnancies is not normal behavior. Faking pregnancies and taking people to court is not normal behavior. manufacturing sex abuse and sexual allegations, and that's not normal behavior. All these things to prevent from being held accountable for one's own otherwise bad behavior. And that's the parallel. These are the things I'm trying to bring together, right? This is what I'm trying to draw parallels to, is the bizarre behavior of Jenn Kamp and the bizarre behavior of Laura Owens, and how they have similar motivations and similar cycles and similar methodologies of using the court system to try and manifest their crazy realities, so that in this alternate world of theirs, they are the one who's right and they are the victim, and the other person who's the actual one being victimized is the perpetrator. That's what this is about. I mean, fundamentally, the mechanisms are a little bit different, and sort of the processes and people involved just as a result of the situations. But this is the cycle. These are the patterns of behavior. And any reasonable person would look at this sort of behavior and go, this isn't right. There's a questionable element here. There's also a very dangerous and questionable legal element here too. This is what gets me excited on YouTube, I suppose. And compared to my regular line of work, which is usually not this interesting, I find this fascinating. It's fascinating, as Mr. Spock says. Beam us all up, frankly, because I'm ready to get off the world. If the world gets any crazier and there's more people like this, I'm done. What's the point? If the world is overrun with these sorts of abnormal people that do these sorts of abnormal things, we're all screwed. Forget it. Forget presidential elections, depending on how you feel about them. This is dangerous. This could make us go extinct with too many of these people running around. God and whatever else up in the sky, help us. Be safe out there, people. Till next time, I don't know what to say. Hi, everyone, it's me again, wearing a different shirt, meaning this is a different day. No, this isn't one of those little postscripts where I'm trying to sell you something because, well, we're not remotely big enough for that yet. But this is me realizing that, well, the audio's a little goofy in this episode, 'cause Windows. You know where this is going. Sorry, we'll try and make things happier next time, but do me a favor, and hopefully your thumbs aren't broken. Hit those like and subscribe buttons. And if you absolutely hate this, the thumbs down button works too. All the best.